Frankie, it feels like I said this not long ago, but no game this week. So we're going to dive into the digital mailbag and see what questions and or topics our subscribers have got for us. Are you ready?
I'm ready, mate. I'm ready.
Well, I'm going to take it from the top, and it's Decanio 1986 says, if Fabianski isn't offered a new contract, which keeper do you think we should be looking at bringing in to challenge Areola for the number 1 spot?
This is more your bag than it is mine, mate. You love keeping your finger on the pulse with the other players.
There's two. I think Keller of Liverpool's my number 1.
Yeah, and you mentioned him a while.
The other keeper I would go for is Hermansen of Leicester City. I think he's had a really good season. I appreciate when you look at where Leicester are in the league and whatnot. You might think, well, can't be that good a goalkeeper if they're down there. I actually think he's kept them in with a chance of staying up. When Cooper had him outside of relegation zone, I felt it was lucky. I was watched Leicester quite a bit, and they were picking up results they perhaps didn't deserve to. And I think a large part of that was down to Hermansen. I think he was very comfortable with the ball at his feet. A really good goalkeeper, just 25 years old, I think, as well. So I think it ticks a lot of boxes. And I think there's an opportunity this summer for one or two clubs to make big statements by getting those two goalkeepers in. Now and again, they pop up, don't they, Frankie? Where there's a goalkeeper, a good age, good experience, and they're just available. This summer, I think there's two, and I'd love to see West Ham in the market. Would you get a new goalkeeper? Are you happy with Areola and Fabianski?
Yeah, I would. Fabianski's just looking stiffer and stiffer, and I just think we do need someone, especially when you're, what he's trying to play and how he's trying to play. I think we need to move the ball a bit quicker. I think when we're sort of that last game that we had against Leicester, I just felt we was a bit lethargic, a bit slow in how we went about things. So I want to see someone who's going to get that ball and look up and try and move us out, with a bit more speed. So, yeah, and I'm not even sure Areola's that man, if I'm honest. I've been happy with him since he come back in for Fabianski, don't get me wrong, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with him. But I wouldn't like to see us go and sign someone for the sake of signing someone. I want to see us sign someone who can push Areola and try and compete for that first team spot.
Yeah. Right, there was a question that you thought was amusing, so we're going to do that one now. From GP, he or she says, if Gio was a farmer and had a field of unripe gonzos, would Frankie agree that time is needed before one can judge Gio's crop? So do you agree that Potter must be given at least until the end of next season to judge him?
I mean, to put it in that context is away with the fairies, so I respect it. I can't imagine you as a farmer, mate, at all.
Me neither.
I mean, what would you be doing to fertilise the crop? Chucking buckfast on it? I just can't imagine it. And what would you be growing, mate? The old devil's lettuce or something? I just don't imagine you there nurturing a patch of carrots or something. I just can't imagine it.
I can actually be quite green fingered, I have, and carrots are one of the trickier ones to grow because they need a lot of drainage, because obviously the carrot grows downwards, so the root continues to grow down, so it needs water. So you need to have quite a sandy soil to grow carrots, and I'm not even taking a piss.
Really didn't have you down as an Alan Titchmarsh kind of guy, mate, but you sounds like you've got it all sussed out.
Just hand me down as an Alan Tits.
I had someone gave me this tip. I was out for one of the coaches' birthdays last week, and Albie's been struggling with getting to sleep and stuff because he trains quite late at night and it's under the floodlights, and then he comes home and he needs to go straight to bed because it gets late. He's been struggling with getting off to sleep, but their tip was to sit him in front of Garden's World. They said it's like the best tip that you could ever have. So maybe I'll become very green-fingered sitting there watching that while I'm putting him to sleep, mate. Who knows? But no, I get where he's coming from. I completely understand that everybody does need time, and he hasn't really had an opportunity to bring in any players that fit his system at this stage. He's trying to just put players in where I think he thinks he can get the best out of what he's got, and he does need a bit of time to nurture things. But like I say, I'm not worried about time. I think he's got us very organised very quickly. I think he's come further in the time that he's had, a lot further than what Lopetegui had in his whole time at West Ham. He's achieved more already. So, I can see things ticking along quite nicely, really.
Yeah, I feel like I have to say no because I didn't wait. I didn't give Lopetegui a season, did I? I didn't wait until him to sit there and go, "Oh, wait till the end of the season." I always thought for Lopetegui, Christmas time, and I was really struggling to give him until Christmas time, and I didn't even make it. I wanted him out before that, but I think there was little signs of Lopetegui being a good fit the minute he was appointed because of your opinion or my opinion of Lopetegui pre-West Ham. So when he came in, I thought, I'm not sure about. I don't want him. I'm not going to pretend I wanted him. I didn't want him at all. I remember sitting on here doing a video laughing. The fact he was away to AC Milan, going, "Oh, get in! We're not getting Lopetegui. He's off to AC Milan." And then we went and got him. So he started on minus Geo points, if you like, and I did my best to get it back to zero before the season kicked off and said, let's judge him fairly. And I tried. I think I did a fair good job of it. But Potter doesn't start on mine. Would he be, like I said, was he my number one pick? He wouldn't have been in the summer, but he possibly was out of the managers that were free and available to take over from Lopetegui, because that was what the club required. So he would have been near the top of the free agent managers. So does he get to the end of next season before you judge him? Yes, but no. I think you can judge him as and when we go. The people are judging him now, and you should. You should be allowed to judge him game by game, week by week, month by month. And I think come the summer, you'll have a strong idea of what you think of him so far and what you expect of him going into next season. So I guess, JP, would I wait till next season to judge him? No, but I'm willing to give him the entire season to see what he can come up with. At this point, unless anything drastic changes, then 100% yes. I've been encouraged, and I feel quite confident as to what we're going to get from Graham Potter, and it will be a pragmatic manager. And I think the football will be quite boring next season, but I think we will be very well organised. I think tactically we'll be very switched on. I think the players will have a very good understanding of what Graham Potter wants from them. And I think sometimes there can be a misconception that good tactically and well organized equals attacking football, and I don't think that's the case. So I think we'll get that part of it, but I just think the entertainment factor will remain quite low, but the efficiency factor, if you like, will be quite high. What you've seen against Leicester, I think you'll see quite a lot of that next season, actually, where we maybe pick up points, but it might be a tough watch at times.
Don't sound fun, Gio. I've got to say, it doesn't sound fun.
I don't think it will be. It depends on what you determine is fun. And then if results is what you want, I think you'll do all right with Potter as manager. If scoring loads of goals is what you want, I'm not sure you're going to get that under Graham Potter. Remember, his Brighton side scored 40 goals in a season. 38 games, they scored 40 goals. They missed a lot of chances. There was always that point put across that they missed a lot of big chances. But that's what I think we'll get from it. And before someone says moaning, I'm not moaning. It's my honest prediction. And if it,
no, that's not moaning. That's being quite genuine about what you think you're going to see.
I think some people manager.
I think some people will moan after what you've said. I think some people will say that really isn't what we always want to sign up for, and they'll be saying, "Why have we got that again?"
The problem is the appointment of Lopetegui has set us back considerably. I still think we were in a good position post David Moyes. Once he left, we had no European football, but we just come off the back of 3 seasons with European football. We had a lot of money to spend. We had more money to spend than I thought. We were in a good position post David Moyes, but we had to get the appointment right, and we've absolutely ballsed up. And I think for the next, I say months, maybe even a season, 2 seasons, I think we're going to pay the price for getting Lopetegui wrong. Because we're going to spend over 100 million on players. We've had to pay out to sack Lopetegui, and there's going to be a punishment for that, which is that this summer we perhaps can't afford to go spend as loads as we want. And I think Potter is possibly the right manager just to steady the ship. And I think if the club possibly need a boring season where we get back to the point of we were before Lopetegui, which is financially pretty sound, and the squad's in a decent position and ready to be moulded moving forward. I honestly think that Lopetegui appointments really hurt that club. And it's a shame because we were like I said, I think we're in a good position, and I think next season we're going to feel the what do you want to call it, the repercussions of Lopetegui. I don't think we've felt it just yet. Back to the mailbag. Cowboys and Indian says, do we have the players to build a strong spine? And if not, what position needs recruiting?
Well, I guess when people talk about a spine, it's normally the core down the middle of the park. So it's normally having a really good player in the middle. It's normally having a good centre half, and it's normally having a good, sensible sort of centre forward. So, I mean, that's really the straight down the middle of the park is where you want it to be as solid as possible. I don't think we've got the personnel for that at the moment. You know, as much as I still like Souček. I know a lot of people don't, and think that he really needs to be moved on for us to play the type of football that some of the fans come to expect. I still think he's a really good role model. I think he's a really good professional. I sent you a video the other day of him playing tennis with his daughter. She had the tennis racket and he was kicking it over. And, you know, his footwork ain't as bad as I think some people think at times. But does he move the ball a bit too slow? Does he not really have the type of, you know, nice passing through the middle of the park that we all want sometimes? I can accept that, and we know he's got some limitations, but I wouldn't say that we've got an athletic, really solid, you know, box to box kind of midfielder that gives us that real good core. And I know, you know, maybe some people would argue Alvarez, but I'm not convinced he's that man either, to be honest. I still rate him. I still think he brings a lot to the side. I actually think he's been better when he's given a real smaller space to work in, rather than running around like a headless chicken. I always said to you, I think from day one, when I watched Alvarez at the very first match he played for us, I was sat right in the front row and I watched him play and I said, I think his positioning is the thing that will let him down. I think he gets lost. He gets drawn out of position a lot. Don't get me wrong, he works hard to get back and cover it. But if you want someone to be a solid core of your team, I'm not sure he's the man that you can rely on. So, honest answer is no, I don't. And I do still want to see us go and get a midfielder who is that real solid centre of the park. But how hard are they to find these days? Even the top teams are really struggling to find them. So for West Ham to try and find one is double difficult.
The answer is no for me. I don't think we do have a strong spine. Whether you look at it like Frankie says, which is keeper, centre-back, midfielder, striker, or you look at it different, which is, do you have 6 players that play week in, week out because they're that good? I think we've got a few of them. I think you've got all being fit. You've got Tadibo, Kilman, Wan-Bissaka, Bowen. You could make an argument. Well, Paqueta would probably be in there. You can make an argument for Kudus, but I think you could easily make an argument for not having Kudus as well. But we don't have the striker. The midfield ain't there. The left wing back, Scars has looked good, but I thought he looked quite not out his depth against Leicester, but he looked like an inexperienced player that needed coaching against Leicester City. And that is not an insult. That's what he is. So I'd say we don't have a left wing back either. I only mentioned 2 centre-backs. We play with 3, so we're lacking a centre-back there. So it's quite a lot of players I think we're missing for that real strong first 11 core going forwards. And that covers the positions I think that we might need to get in. Digital said, how much do you think we will have to spend in the summer? And what kind of players do you think Potter's man will be going for?
Well, I think that's really dependent on who goes out. I think if we were going to say now how much of West Ham got to spend without any other players going out the door, it's probably 40 to 50 million. Yeah. So I don't think it's bundles. But if, you know, you get the right money for Kudus and he goes out, then that can massively change that. So look, I think that the squad needs some serious money spent on it still. We spent a lot of money last time, but I think it needs another £100 million invested in it minimum, really, to try and give Potter everything that he needs. You've just gone through it there. If you haven't got 6 guaranteed players who are going to play every week and a sort of an absolute sure thing to be in the starting 11, then, you know, that means you've got 4 or 5 players that you really need to go out there and sign. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Like you say, I think, and also I don't necessarily. There are positions that I think we look really weak with, but there are also positions that also need a little bit of backup. And I'm happy watching the youth at the moment. I think when you spoke to me last year and we were speaking about why no youth was coming through, I kept saying that I don't think any of them are quite ready.
Yeah.
I think some of them are getting close. And I think some of them could be used, and Skulls we're seeing. So I think some players are. So that's going to help, and that's going to bolster us up a little bit. But we've already mentioned the goalkeeper. You've already mentioned the left wing back. We've already mentioned the centre back. We've already mentioned the central midfielder, and we've always lacked a striker. So you've got to go and sign 5 players. If you want to sign 5 players, 100 million's got to be the minimum that you're looking to spend.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think our net spend. I don't think it'll be loads. We're getting bombarded at the minute of messages, aren't we, from people that speak to people at the club, basically saying, "No, I've got to sell before we buy." But we get that message every transfer window, and then we go on to spend money. So there will be money to spend. And also, what was interesting was speaking to the Leicester City fan last week, because I genuinely didn't know why Potter rejected Leicester City. I knew Leicester had approached him. I thought it was twice. Turns out it was 3 times. And he'd rejected them. So there was obviously a reason for that. And I don't think it's because Leicester were crap per se. But he said the reason was Potter didn't think he was the right fit. And a large part of that was due to money. Leicester just didn't know how much money to have to spend because of all this PSR stuff hanging over their heads. And I thought, well, that's interesting. The Potter's perhaps not gone there. Now, I accept, obviously, he's looked at the Leicester squad and thought, I need to spend a lot of money there. And he's looking at the West Ham one and maybe there's a lot I can work with there. And it's 2 completely different things. But the fact he wanted reassurances over money to spend at Leicester, and before he eventually took the job at West Ham, we got told he was wanting reassurances over money to spend, but also Kyle McCauley. And I find it very difficult to believe that the club would go spend money, because we did. We had to pay Chelsea to get McCauley. I find it difficult to believe we go pay to get Graham Potter's transfer guy in and then give him no money to spend. Yeah. Well, that would just be stupid, wouldn't it? What's the point in that? And I appreciate the money to spend will be the players that we move on. But I feel like you've made a bit of an investment in that area of the club. Now you've got to give him the tools to go and do his job. So I think we will spend money. But like Frankie, I don't think it'll be a terrible amount. I think you're looking at 40, 50 million. But I think Agard is quite key to this summer. Moving Agard on. If you can get a substantial fee for him, effectively it might pay most of, if not all of, Tadebo's transfer fee. And then suddenly that's a boost. We're just going to have to be savvy, I think, Frankie. I think we're going to have to dip our toe back into the loan market. We've got Ferguson and Solar on loan. I think we're going to have to try and get a couple of players on loan next season as well for depth and competition, and just see if there's players we can get on the cheap, if you like, to fill it up. But also, like you said, look at the youth team and think, can we use Potts and Earthy next season? If the answer is yes, that's 2 players you don't need to buy because you've got the depth there. So it's a busy summer for West Ham coming up. But to answer your question, I reckon about 50 million net spend. In terms of the type of players, what kind of players do you think Potter's man will be going for? Have you got a strong opinion on that?
I think it's all going to be about trying to move that ball across that system, like we said before. I think Souček's really trying. I said that before. I thought he's really, really shown an effort to want to play the way Potter wants him to play. And it's admirable. But he would always give everything. He's that type of man, isn't he? He always gives 100% to anything that he does. But I'm not sure he's the right man. I think we need people who are good with their feet, who can move the ball more quickly, because that was our biggest problem for me against Leicester. I just felt like it was just too... That cutting pass, that pass out wide to the wide players, whether it had been Wan-Bissaka, whether it had been Skulls, I think we really struggled with it. And it's just because we haven't got those ball-playing players in the team. And we knew that was something we were struggling with anyway. If you want to move the ball across that back 3, get it out wide and take advantage of it, you've got to have them players who are able to do it. And I watched it and I thought, this boring. And I did think it was boring on Thursday night. But I also thought, I get why we're trying to do what we're trying to do. I think we look really organised. And I give the benefit of the doubt that while everyone's trying to do what he's asking of them, the personnel just ain't quite there. So I think we're going to see some really technical, sound players coming in for a change. Players who can get in on the half turn, players who can open their body shape up and move the ball a lot quicker in transition from that back five that he wants to play with, and hopefully get us moving forward quicker. If we can do that, as you said before, although pragmatic, it might not be quite as difficult to watch. We might actually see us move the ball quickly, get it into those forward players, and just be a bit more on the front foot, which would be good.
Yeah, I think those very comfortable in possession will be coming into the club, but I think we'll sign some younger players, but I think we will sign one or two older players as well under Graham Potter. I think at Brighton they've always got a bit of an eye for a more experienced player. I mean, it's signed James Milner in the last window, so they don't mind. I appreciate that's not Potter and McCauley, by the way, but it was still the ethos that was at Brighton now was there when they were there. So they always had more experienced players coming into the club that could sort of, I guess, guide the youngsters and help the youngsters. So I think we will see one or two sort of elder players come in, and usually sometimes there's a couple of free ones or it's a low transfer fee, and that's where you got to punch clever when you're on a limited budget like we're anticipating West Ham to be. So yes, we might need to bring in 2 or 3 20, 30, 40 million pound players, but I think you offset that by bringing in 2 or 3 players that there's less than 5 million maybe on a transfer fee, and you might only get them for a season or two, but they'll contribute a lot in that time, and they're sort of the professional role model to some extent.
Should we see a bit of pace, Geo? A bit of pace? We're lacking a bit of pace.
Yeah, we are lacking that, and I agree with you about the creativity, by the way. I don't know what the statistics show, but I will always value the eye test over statistics. And from what I've seen this season, we are lacking just much creativity, or creative players in general. It's just a bit bland. And this isn't just Potter. It was under Lopetegui as well. We were struggling to create good chances. And we've got to address that to some extent this summer. And so I think an attacking midfielder, as much as a striker will be the focus, I think bringing in an attacking midfielder, I think the midfielder we bring in, I think will be someone that can play sort of the number 10 role and also deeper in midfield. Alexis McAllister would sometimes play deeper and he'd sometimes play more advanced. Pascal Gross was another one at Brighton that would sometimes play in the middle of the pitch and he'd sometimes play further up the pitch depending where needed him. Trossard would sometimes be the number 10, sometimes he'd be a wing back as well. So Potter likes players that can play in more than one position, and I think that's what we'll see with a central-ish midfielder coming in, someone that can play a little bit deeper or playing behind the striker, depending on who's available, who we're playing, stuff like that. And that's the type of midfielder I think we'll go for. Matty is asking how fancy league's looking. We've got a quarter of the season left to go.
Well, I've been struggling, as you know, Geo, but one thing that gives me a little bit of hope, Geo, again, done me in by picking an assistant manager change. He sabotages me. That's what he does. If anyone wants to know why I'm struggling, Geo sabotages me on purpose. He goes, Frankie, I've got a really good idea. I then do it. He then doesn't do it, and it all goes wrong. So
I did also say I've changed my mind on that idea that I had previously.
It was too late. I'd locked it in.
And you sent me a gift of a plastic bottle shaking. But so I did bottle it, and I made the right decision.
You did. You made the right call. But one thing that gives me hope, Gio, is I've still got every single chip to play other than that assistant manager. I've still got my wild card. I've got my free hit. I've still got everything.
So have I. And I'll be honest with you. Pardon me. I don't know what I'm doing with these chips. Like, it requires like maths and stuff. It's almost bored me a little bit. I'm actually doing okay this season, but it's like I'm trying to work out when to play my free hit and play to my bench boost. And I think, I can't be arsed working. I just want to pick 11 players, give someone a captain's armband, and that's it. Now it's turning into a game of strategy, and I guess that's good. But I don't know. It's one of them, and trying to keep up to date with how the FA Cup impacts the Premier League fixtures. And there's a lot of information to take in and a lot of guesswork to be done. I'm doing okay. I haven't checked to see where I am. I'm probably just outside the top 100,000 now, which is disappointing considering I was in the 50,000. But I've had a couple of bad weeks and a couple of bad calls I've made. But I'm all right. As long as I win the Hammers Chat Addicts League and ideally the Hammers Chat Patron League as well, that's good because it means less prizes we've got to pay out for. So we'll save a bit of money if I win those leagues. Right, we'll make this the last question, otherwise we could be here all day. And if we won't answer your question, don't worry, we'll try and record a bonus podcast. But it's from H Lim 7551, and this is an interesting one. It's a fun one. Hypothetically, if you're given a chance to swap owners with one of the following clubs, who would you swap with, or would you stick with the current West Ham owners? Manchester United, Chelsea, or Leicester City?
I would probably swap with Chelsea.
What, just because?
I think they've put their money where their mouth is. They're doers, and I like a doer. They are trying. They're getting it all wrong because they haven't got anybody there who has a clue about football. But I don't think that takes a lot. Just find someone who does know stuff about the Premier League and about football. Let them be your go-between and your advisor. And I think it would all come together quite nicely. But one thing that they do seem to want to do is act. And acting is a big part of trying to make something happen. They're just not the right people to keep making the decisions. But I think it could come together for them if they get the right person in place.
Yeah, I think that's a very solid argument. It certainly wouldn't be Man United. The more I hear and read about how they're going about things at that club, I cringe a little bit. I think, bloody hell, you've lost your identity on the pitch, but I feel like they're stripping away their identity off the pitch as well at the moment. And it's a bit, don't never ever hear Ratcliffe utter words. I don't know if they say this at Man United, but never ever utter the words family, club, or anything like that, because what you're doing is the complete opposite. And there's some of the policies I think is quite fair. Like there's a big hoo-ha made about how he's taking away lunches for staff. I think, well, what other job can you work in, like the office, and you get a free lunch? There are some companies, but they're few far between. And when I say taking away lunches, they were still getting soup and sandwiches, but it was just like you're not getting like a lasagna for your lunch for free anymore. So I'm not against that one completely, but there are some it's a bit too far. Leicester, again, because of what the Leicester City fans have said, no, I wouldn't want it to be run by. To be fair, I don't think Top, who's the chairman of that club now, I don't think he wanted to be a chairman or run a football club. It was his dad, and there was a terrible accident. He's been given this club, and I think it's sort of like he's just not that interested in it. Whereas it was his dad's pride and joy, pumped everything into the club and enjoyed doing that as a job. Whereas now I think it's more of an inconvenience. It's part of a big business, and he'd rather focus elsewhere. Whereas Chelsea, I agree with what you're saying. I think they've got good intentions. They're just going about it the wrong way due to lack of knowledge in football. But one thing you can't say is they don't invest money or they don't spend money on players. They just do it terribly wrong. So yeah, out of the three of them, it would be Chelsea. We'd have swapped them for what we've currently got. Probably. Maybe not. Can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe not Man United or Leicester. I think I'd stick with what we've got. Better the devil sometimes, but just because another owner's terrible doesn't make your owner a good one. Just makes him not as terrible as the one you compared him to. Anyway, Frankie, anything you'd like to add at the end of the podcast? Obviously, we've had the concession news come through, and the under-21s have won their 7th game in a row.
Yeah. What did we do this weekend?
What did you do?
Cup matches. FA Vars Cup matches. 2 games. Won the first. Drew the second. Got knocked out on goal difference.
That's
1
rough.
goal. 1 goal. Gutted. The boys were absolutely devastated. We thought it was going to extra time. They basically, in the communication they sent, said if 2 teams are on the same points, it will go to extra time. So we thought, right, the team that we just played, we drew, we level on points, it will go to extra time. Whoever wins in extra time will go through. They only had 1 committee member, and basically you have to have a committee member witness the extra time. So they decided to scrap the extra time and go with goal difference, which meant we went out on 1 goal. So gutted, mate.
I would not be accepting that. I'm not having this. Get your committee member down here immediately, because we're playing this game. We're not. And if the other team refuses to stick around and wait, they're forfeiting. Off you go. You can exit. So you've now got a 60% win rate then, as gaffer.
Yeah,
it's not bad. It's not too shabby.
No, I'm taking it. Since we had our little transfer window recruitment, we're unbeaten, 2 wins and 1 draw. So yeah, there's a lot to be happy with, but it was just a real sour way to go out. I'd rather have got beat. If you get beat, you put your hands up, don't you, and say, do you know what, we lost to the better team. But to go out without losing seems a bit harsh.
It happens now and again. It happened at it's happened at World Cups and Euros or whatever. Teams draw all 3 games, and off out. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you to you guys who submitted questions. Like I said, if we've put in a question and we've not tackled it, don't fret. We're on the ball. We will we'll like all the video, all the answers, all the questions we've answered. We're going to like them all. So when we go back to the community post, all the unanswered ones we know are still to do. But we will catch up. I promise you. But if you've enjoyed this podcast, please do drop a like on it by clicking thumbs up. Scary Dammers chat, myself and Frankie. Catch you in a bit.